Greetings, this is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct today from Black Facts Headquarters Studio in lovely Kent, Ohio. All right, looks like we're getting everything in order here. Alles in Ordnung. Hope everybody had a good night, got a good night's sleep. Good night's sleep is always something that should be thought of as a like a sustenance, something that you need that will sustain you all through the day and maybe on even into the next day. So definitely a necessity, getting a good night's sleep. And I did get one last night, so I'm raring to go. So let's go ahead and do what we need to do. First and foremost, you know what we like you to do. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and give us a like. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Last but not least, go ahead and tell your friends, your family, and all your enemies where they need to be if they want to be real pleased. And that is right now, right here with me and you. As a matter of fact, give them a clue. All right. Now here's a proverb for today that fits right into our story, as our proverbs usually do. And it goes like this. It is better to be loved than feared. Now that's one that some people out here right now really need to remember. It's better to be loved than feared, because some people really do think that fear is the best option, and that if you're afraid of somebody, that that will keep it by people being afraid of you, that will keep people in check. And maybe it will, but then again, maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just make them mad. And that particular proverb is from Senegal, Senegalese proverb. Oh no, here I come. Ooh, hold on. Ooh, boy. So I got a little tickle in my nose. All right. So we're continuing on reading from our book today, King of Kings, about the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, last ruler of the 3,000-year Solomonic dynasty of Ethiopia, his imperial majesty, Haile Selassie I, or as some people call him, Haile Selassie the First. Yes, and it may seem quite superfluous for me to always introduce him that way, but as a matter of fact, that is the way he is typically introduced, and not just by Rastas, but by people in general, before and after Rastas were even heard of. Those are all his titles. So it's like saying, you know, President Kennedy. Okay, but our presidents usually don't have all those other titles that follow behind it. But if you go to Europe, that's how Europeans are introduced. Like Sir Richard Burton, you know, Knight of the Garter, da-da-da-da-da, and they'll go on and on and on. It might take them a whole minute just to say somebody's name or all their names and appellations. So same thing with Selassie, no different. So let's go ahead and keep reading from the book here. This is we're getting ready to move right on into the actual book itself. We've been reading the prologue, but we're getting ready to move right on into the actual book itself. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. They got a picture of him here. I thought I'd seen all the pictures that I needed to see of Selassie, but I see there's still some pictures that I haven't seen. Wow, well, you know what? Everything is not Googleable. Just keep that in mind. Everything is not Googleable. I know y'all think it is, but truly it's not. Everything is not Googleable. Okay, so we left off here on in the prologue on page 23. Nor did this determination to make a clean break with the past stop short of the archives of the imperial palace and the imperial ministry of the pen whose holdings were dispersed to the four winds. This makes it all the more difficult for any historian trying to research the empire. So this has to do with the Derg, and that when they took over, they did everything they could to wipe out even the memory of the reign of Selassie, because it had gone on for just too long, and they didn't want anybody. They wanted to be able to tell the story the way they were telling the story. They didn't want any kind of counter story out there, so they tried to get rid of all of the primary documents as much as possible. Although Haile Selassie wrote memoirs covering his reign up to 1945, these afford only a very limited insight into what really made the emperor tick, while 20th century historiography in Europe took it for granted it would have recourse to a multitude of archives and documents. The source material available to those writing about the history of Africa in general, and Ethiopia in particular, is extremely sparse. The overwhelming majority of written sources are of Western provenance, including memoranda and protocols. Almost forgot our slideshow today. Today's slideshow. Let's get him in here. Okay, almost forgot. Try not to. Okay, here we go. Including memoranda and protocols from Western embassies. Travel reports, personal memoirs, and reportage. Several of these sources paint a picture of an alien, often impenetrable country, and yield to the only too understandable tendency to try and make the unfamiliar more familiar by adding embellishments. This is also the case for a number of books that English, American, or German authors have written about Haile Selassie. This present work does not lay claim to being a wholly scholarly biography. Even so, I did consult academic sources and documents and made strenuous efforts to come to as objective a view as possible of my subject. In the course of my researches, I had many conversations with others who knew Haile Selassie, members of the imperial family, former ministers, and dignitaries of the imperial administration, but also with many people who took a critical attitude to the former emperor. This book has no pretensions to be the definitive biography of the last ruler of the Ethiopian Empire, merely a contribution to what I hope will become a growing body of work on this topic. It will take many mosaic tiles before we are finally able to compose a complete picture of the man. The story of Haile Selassie is also the story of the 20th century, its upheavals, promises, and terrors. In 1916, when Rastafari began his regency, Kaiser Wilhelm II was still sitting on the throne in Germany, while Franz Joseph reigned supreme in Vienna, and Tsar Nicholas II in Moscow, all crowned heads whose era in Europe was about to draw irrevocably to a close. Haile Selassie, too, was a child of his time, which was still very much characterized by the attitudes and mores of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The year he was deposed, there was only one other reigning monarch left who had come to the throne before him, Japan's Emperor Hirohito. He had outlasted all the rest of the crowned heads of state, most of them by several decades, until the autumn of 1974, when, with his demise and partly through his own agency, 3,000 years of history in Ethiopia was brought to an abrupt close. In between his accession and his end lies the eventful and moving life of Haile Selassie I, or Haile Selassie the First. And that was by Asfa Wilson Azarate, and he wrote that in Frankfurt am Main in May of 2015. So only just 6 years ago. So this is a very recent book. Crown Heads. I always correct for errors as I go. If I find them, I mark them. All right. All right. So now, before we go on, we do want to we're going to read this note. It's only a one-page note, but it bears reading because it talks about differences in perspective. And in this case, we're talking about a difference in how people are named. Ethiopian naming conventions have no concept of the division into Christian name and surname that is typical in Europe. Instead, people have a single given name. This is often followed by the father's name. Thus, Tafari Makonnen is Tafari, the son of Makonnen. Whenever names are cited in abbreviated form in the text, they appear without the addition of the patronymic, though these should not be construed in any way as familiar forms. Aristocratic titles, Ras, Lul, Dejesmak, Fitarati, etc., are shown in italic in the text. An explanation of the most common imperial titles can be found in the rear of the book, pages 348 and 49. Furthermore, the glossary on page 350 elucidates the more important Amharic terms used in the text. To facilitate reading, I refrain from giving Amharic names and concepts in their full academic transliterated form with diacritical marks. The transcriptions I have used here follow the forms employed in non-academic English publications. The difficulties in transliterating Amharic are illustrated in my own family, where Azarate is written in at least 3 different ways by various family members, including my late father. The Ethiopian dating system follows the Alexandrian or Coptic calendar, which is around 7 years behind the Gregorian calendar in universal use in the West. Oh, there it is. Okay. For ease of understanding, I have therefore followed the latter system, in other words, the Gregorian calendar system, for all dates given in this book. So we're going to be doing a piece on that coming up here shortly in the evening. It'll be for our children's presentations in the evening at 9 o'clock. And it will be dealing with the Ethiopian calendar and why it is said that Ethiopia has 13 months of sunshine. 13 months of sunshine. So right about now, we're coming up on a good 20 minutes. We figure this is a good place to take a break, because the next chapter is chapter 1, a childhood in Harad. And that's definitely going to be an important chapter, and it looks like it's fairly lengthy. It's about 20 pages or so. So we will leave that off until we return, and we'll be looking for more. We've been looking for pictures of Haile Selassie at different points in his life, and we've found quite a few, both in color, paintings, digital renditions, all different kinds of images of him. I mean, he must have been one of the most photographed people on the whole planet, because he was photographed from a very young age, when a lot of people during that time they didn't get photographs like that. All these portraits and studio photographs and things of this nature. That didn't typically happen, especially with people in other countries, like say Africa, for instance. Okay, a lot of Africans did not get photographed like that. So there are a lot of people that could possibly have been photographed, but they were only photographed maybe in their latter life, like Nehanda. I've only ever seen like one or maybe two pictures of Nehanda. So even though she lived during the age of photography, the only picture we have of her is when she was in chains and getting ready to be hung by the colonizers of Zimbabwe. Unfortunately, that's all we have for her. So, so there are a lot of photographs of Emperor Haile Selassie, and we'll be looking for those, and we're putting them together for our slideshows, etc. But we won't possibly be able to share all of those photographs with you, but we will share as many as we can. And like I said, we're looking for more when he's a youth. Those are the most difficult ones to find, especially good ones. All right. Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and break out here. This is Doc Ock signing out. Doc Ock at noon and 9 signing out. We'll be black tonight, continuing on with more stories of Ethiopia, talking about Ethiopian history, culture, and history and culture. Absolutely. So look for us tonight at 9 o'clock. In the meanwhile, may peace guide your way with justice, because peace without justice disgusts us, and it should disgust you too. Oh, let me not forget, almost forgot. Please don't forget to give us a like if you're watching on Facebook, a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, and then go ahead and subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel right here below. You'll see the button. Hit it, quit it, don't forget it. Peace out, y'all.